Hey class, I wanted to go over a couple of things to just help focus you on your exam for this week. This exam is going to be over the endocrine system as well as the blood. So if you go to the module page, you'll see here, I'm already on the module page, endocrine resources. If you go to the lecture pages, for the endocrine there are 2 lecture pages, and in the blood I believe there's 2 as well, but we'll click on those. So when you click on the lecture pages, in the summary video section, I want you to notice on this right hand side where there's a review checklist. This review checklist will be your best study guide over the topic presented in this particular lecture. So for instance, these are some of the bullet points of things that you should know for basic hormones, as well as the bullet points of what you should know for the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. You can look at these shorter videos here, or obviously go into our longer in-class lecture video here. Here we are on lecture page number 2. Again, we can see the review checklist for the thyroid, parathyroid glands, the adrenal gland, the pancreas, pineal gland, and other tissues. So these are the checklists that you would want to review and go over. For instance, some of the examples of questions that you're going to need to know for the glands, you're going to need to know for every single gland, hormones that are secreted, the target of that hormone, or the action of that hormone. Or you're going to be given an action and you're going to be able to name the hormone that's responsible. So for example, decreasing blood calcium levels, which hormone would be responsible for that? Or increasing blood sugar levels. Or blood glucose, what hormone's responsible for that, or stress. You should know the zona of the adrenal gland. You should also know the hormones that are coming from the anterior pituitary as well as the posterior pituitary, as well as the types of hormones from the hypothalamus. Remember, the hypothalamus only sends out hormones that include the name inhibiting or releasing. For the blood, we'll go into the blood lecture page. So we can see here, again with the checklist on the right hand side, this will be your study guide. For instance, for blood, you're going to need to know about hemostasis. That would be down here. Review checklist for platelets and hemostasis. That means blood clotting. You need to know the role of aspirin and Coumadin. You should really know those 3 main basic steps that I cover in my lectures as far as platelet aggregation, the formation of thrombin, and the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. Ultimately, a clot is fibrin formation. And then you should know what the anticoagulants play a role there, as well as our natural clot buster, plasmin. You should know about where white blood cells come from. We can see the white blood cell checklist here. So you should know where they come from. Obviously, white blood cells and red blood cells are coming from the bone marrow, but plasma proteins almost all come from the liver. For the white blood cells, you will be seeing images. So this will be very important. You are going to be seeing images of any of the 5 white blood cells. For each white blood cell, you need to know its name. You need to know the percentage that it would be in the blood normally, as well as what condition is associated with high levels of that particular white blood cell. Now the easiest, because you can look, white blood cells have a lot of pathologies associated with them. Very much the easiest thing to do is really just look at on the in-class lectures on the notes provided there. I usually just give kind of a one-liner as far as just a ballpark. So this is not a microbiology class, but for instance, if you have a high level of neutrophils, it's going to be a more recent, more acute bacterial infection. And obviously there'll be conditions where viral will play a role, but I'm just thinking big name things. So for instance, lymphocytes, I sort of have there as an increase of more of a viral infection. Again, this is more in general, but I have these sort of one-liners in the notes that's probably a lot easier to put on a splash card and study from. You should also know about blood typing. We can see here the review checklist for blood typing. Essentially, you're going to need to know for each blood type, what are the markers on the cell, as well as what are the antibodies in the plasma. And then what blood type can donate to the other and why. Not just, oh, one is a universal donor or one's a universal recipient. That's not a proper answer. You need to know why. The answers will include whether something can be donated to another cell type, say O, can donate to A because there are no markers on the surface for the plasma antibodies in A to attack. A cannot donate to O because the antibody in O, the anti-A, will attack the incoming blood. So you should understand why blood types can or cannot donate to each other. One final thing I wanted to point out is here, the review, I created a review video for each chapter. So if you launch under the endocrine review as well as under the blood review, you'll be able to click on this link and it'll take you to a video. You can see the review captions here. There'll be one for the blood as well as one for the endocrine system. You can view it here on the page or you can launch it on YouTube itself. So if you have any questions before we get to the exam, you have a couple more days, please let me know. I'd love to talk to you or help you out any way I can.